Unlock 3 divine secrets to overcome your ego for miraculous quantum manifestation today. In the quaint village of Thornfield, nestled between rolling hills, a sacred air hummed with divine potential. Sarah, a devoted mother, poured her heart into her family and the local church, embodying a faith that wrapped the community in hope. Each day, sunlight would spill through the stained glass windows of St. Jude's church, dancing upon pews filled with singing souls, their voices reverberating with prayers for miracles. Yet, deep within, Sarah battled a fierce inner conflict. While she longed for personal success, she felt called to surrender her ego to God's plan. One misty morning, the winds of change rattled through the village like a warning when her husband, Thomas, was struck by a mysterious illness that threatened to tear their family apart. The moment his pale face met her widened eyes, panic gripped her heart. The congregation buzzed with fear, a collective breath held tightly in their chests. The church, once a tranquil haven, transformed into a sanctuary of desperate prayer. Sarah's knees grated against the cool, wooden floor. Her voice trembled as she cried out to St. Jude for help. In the swell of prayer, she felt his presence almost tangible, as if he were whispering secrets to her soul. And no sooner had she voiced her plea than an ethereal light shone from the altar, and an old woman, cradling a weathered Bible, began to speak. "Fear not, for the Lord works through the humble. Let go of your burdens." The words echoed with an assurance that cut through the fog of despair, igniting a flicker of hope within her heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the words hung in the air, tension rippled through the congregation. Sarah felt the weight of their hopeful gazes. The unity of their faith began to rise, blending voices as they sang hymns to the heavens, flooding the walls with sound. "Great is thy faithfulness," echoed like a mantra, reminding them of past miracles, of healing and love surpassing all limits. But just when the storm seemed to quiet, Thomas's condition worsened. Sarah watched the fear creep into the villager's eyes. What had once felt like a surge of faith now teetered on the edge of doubt. Yet in her gut, something shifted. All at once, a wave of understanding washed over her. Maybe this ordeal was not her battle to fight. Relinquishing her desire to control the outcome, she whispered a prayer, surrendering her ego and offering it to God. As dawn broke one fateful Sunday, it was then that Sarah felt a surge of collective faith enveloping the church. The warmth in the air pulsed with a divine invitation. Together, they prayed, and a miracle unfolded, vibrating through the hearts of all present. Would this moment of surrender restore not just Thomas's health, but also the faith of everyone in Thornfield? Standing in that holy light, a question danced at the corners of her mind. What other sacred secrets had yet to be unveiled as they journeyed deeper into faith? As the flicker of hope burned brighter, the next morning dawned with a gentle clarity. The sun rose, painting the sky in soft hues of gold and lavender, as if it were waking the village to a promise. Sarah started her day with a heart filled with expectancy. The delicate aroma of fresh bread wafted from the kitchen, the warmth reminding her of God's grace in the familiar rhythms of life. Yet beneath the surface of normalcy, the shadows of uncertainty clung tightly. As she prepared breakfast, her thoughts drifted to Thomas, still battling the mysterious ailment that had gripped him. She glanced at the small family photo on the wall, a snapshot of brighter days filled with laughter and joy. But now, that joy felt like a distant memory, slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. Determined to cling to faith, Sarah set a plate before her 2 young children, their innocent chatter breaking through her troubled mind. "Mommy, will Daddy be okay?" her daughter, Lily, asked, her big eyes full of innocent worry. A lump rose in Sarah's throat, but she smiled, her voice steady. Yes, sweetheart. Daddy is strong, and we have a lot of people praying for him. Each word felt like a resolve, a promise to uphold her children's faith even as hers trembled. After breakfast, the church door opened wide, welcoming the gentle breeze, carrying the whispers of faith. As Sarah stepped inside, the sun poured through the stained glass windows, illuminating the space with a kaleidoscope of colors. She knelt, her heart pouring out. Lord, I trust you. I release all fear. Give me courage, she breathed, feeling a holy warmth surround her. Suddenly, the elderly woman from the previous day appeared, her gentle smile instantly calming the swirling thoughts in Sarah's mind. My dear, she said softly, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. You must dwell in the light of his love. Seek your heart's intention, for therein lies a profound treasure. Sarah drew in a breath, feeling as if the woman was unearthing buried truths within her. What do you mean? She asked, eyes wide. Intention is the key, the woman replied, her voice filled with wisdom. When you focus on surrendering your desires, you create openings for divine transformation. Remember, it's not just about what you want. It's about what he wants for you and your beloveds. The weight of her words hung heavy and sweet in the air. Sarah's heart quickened as she remembered her fervent prayer to release her ego. Yes, she wanted healing for Thomas, but was her heart also receptive to God's greater plans? In that moment, another layer of her spirit began to peel away, revealing an openness she had yet to understand. As they spoke, the congregation began to arrive, filling the sanctuary with a palpable energy of unity and prayer. Each face reflected a desperate hope, each heart synchronized in devotion. Sarah felt lifted. The love surrounding her became a soft blanket against the overwhelming worry. They all shared in the weight of Thomas's illness, but they also shared hope, and hope was a powerful force. A call for healing rang out, commanding attention and faith. With every chorus of prayers, Sarah envisioned a light surrounding Thomas, a divine embrace that could breathe life back into him. The realization struck her like a bolt of holy lightning. Healing could come from their collective faith and untapped strength of a community united in purpose. And just as those strong waves of prayer rolled over them, Sarah heard a voice within call out clearly. It's time to unveil the next secret. What did that mean? What uncharted territory lay ahead for her and the villagers? With a heart beating wildly, she knew they were on the brink of something monumental. Would they be ready to face it together? The divine journey promised further revelations, mysterious yet exhilarating. As the prayers swelled in crescendos of faith, Sarah found herself lost in the moment. Each voice around her seemed to weave a tapestry of hope, binding their heartbeats together. In that sacred sanctuary, surrounded by the flickering candles and the soft glow of stained glass, Sarah felt an awakening. The blend of desperate yearning and unwavering faith ignited a flame within her soul. Let us gather in his name, called the pastor, his rich voice resonating with the walls. Each step he took toward the altar was a reminder of God's unexpected grace, guiding them to a place where hope lives. Sarah felt a gentle push in her spirit, as if both the pastor's words and the presence of that wise woman from earlier were nudging her along a path she had not dared to explore. The pastor's prayer unfolded, invoking a divine presence that surged through every inch of the church. Lord, we beseech you, let your healing touch stretch over Thomas and over all who are in need. Fill us, Holy Spirit, with your light, our hearts yearning for transformation. His words swept over the congregation like a summer breeze, soothing and invigorating. As Sarah listened, her thoughts returned to her family's struggle. The burden felt heavy, yet she understood. They were unearthing something precious. The more she surrendered her expectations, the more clarity enveloped her. She held on to that fragile thread of faith, aware of the unfolding story, waiting patiently for its revelation. it was then she noticed it a soft hum that vibrated in the air, merging with the pastor's voice. It was subtle yet profound, like the gentle rustle of leaves whispering secrets only hearts could hear. The elderly woman had spoken of intention, and Sarah felt the weight of those words cradle their significance. The community's faith was a river, and she was a willing vessel, open to be poured out and filled anew. Let's not just ask for miracles, but become the miracles we seek. The pastor urged. His eyes scanned the room, drawing strength from the shared devotion. Sarah felt an electric thrill race through her as his gaze met hers. It was as if he were summoning her to embrace her own role in the divine mystery unfolding before them. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye near the entrance. A man entered, his face worn but radiant, and all heads turned. It was Thomas, strong yet fragile. He appeared as if he had crossed thresholds only known to the divine. Gasps filled the church, muffled cries of joy mixing with tears. In that moment, time stood still. Sarah's heart soared, straining as she tried to comprehend the sight before her. She had envisioned him wrapped in heavenly light, but seeing him there, alive and standing, overwhelmed her. The congregation erupted into spontaneous worship, praising the miracle unfolding right before them. Thomas stepped forward, and though he stumbled slightly, his eyes sparkled with clarity. "I felt your prayers," he called out, each word a triumph, each syllable a treasure unearthed. "I couldn't have made it without your love." The air thickened with conviction, an affirmation of the bond forged through faith. But amid that joy, Sarah felt another whisper beckon deep within her, stirring questions she didn't yet understand. What change had taken place in Thomas? What quiet secrets lingered in the stillness of that miraculous moment? As she reached for him, filled with love, the atmosphere shifted. There was more to unveil. The threads of new beginnings tugged at her heart. What were those divine intentions waiting to be discovered? Would they guide her family further into this transformative journey? The answers loomed like mountains, majestic and unreachable. With a heart both lightened and burdened by possibilities, Sarah wondered, how much more would reveal itself if she leaned into this extraordinary faith? And just then, another powerful voice rose above the crowd, as a hint of the unexpected broke through once more. Prepare for what comes next, for there is much more to share. As the echoes of joy swirled in the air, the atmosphere of the church radiated warmth and hope. Sarah stood, captivated by the transformation she witnessed in Thomas. His presence, once frail and in need, now pulsed with life. She felt a new current of purpose surging within her, compelling her to seek answers. Then the pastor raised his hands, inviting the congregation to lean closer. Let us uncover the divine secrets hidden within our faith. Let our hearts be ready to receive what the Spirit reveals. His voice was a clarion call, cutting through the jubilant noises that filled the space. In that moment, something shifted. The candles flickered more wildly, as if they were responding to the call of the Spirit. Sarah's heart raced. This was no ordinary service. This was a sacred invitation to delve deeper. She glimpsed around the room, faces glimmering with faith, eyes bright with anticipation. God has not only done this miracle today, the pastor declared, but he is stirring us to discover our own power to manifest his glory. The crowd stirred, murmurs of agreement rippling through. Sarah felt her own excitement swell as she considered what manifestation truly meant. Could it be that they held the power of creation in their hands? What if faith was the key to unlocking that potential? Sarah shook her head of confusion. Doubts occasionally surfaced like uninvited guests. Prepare, the pastor continued, for the unfolding of new possibilities, for God longs to break open the prisons we build around ourselves. And there was again that subtle hum. It rose like a tide, interlacing with the pastor's words and wrapping around Sarah's spirit. This was not just about healing Thomas. It was about awakening the potential within each of them to share in the miraculous As the pastor led the congregation in a time of prayer, Sarah closed her eyes, anchoring her heart in that sacred space. She began to visualize the burdens her family carried, the shadows that hovered over their lives. In her mind's eye, she whispered, "Lord, show us how to break free from the chains of our own making, to embrace the miracle you have laid before us." Suddenly, the room grew still. Even the flickering flames seemed to hold a breath. It was then that Sarah remembered the elderly woman from earlier, the one who had spoken about intention. That woman had hinted at the hidden resources each heart could access. What if intentions, surrendered as offerings, could shift the very fabric of their lives? "Let us lift our intentions to God," the pastor exclaimed, breaking the silence. "What do you desire in faith? What shackles bind your hearts? Lay down your ego and watch as his design unfolds." The room erupted in heartfelt responses. Voices mingled in a symphony of hope, exploding into the atmosphere like fireworks igniting the night sky. But amid this stirring, Sarah sensed an internal struggle. Was she ready to let go of her need for control? Was she willing to step fully into the person God intended her to be? Thomas, having sensed her hesitation, met her gaze with knowing eyes. Its liberation on the other side, he assured her, his voice steady. "We need only to believe." A warmth washed over her, filling the cracks in her spirit. Perhaps this was the moment of revelation she had been waiting for. If she surrendered her fears, how much more could God do through her? What miraculous paths would open if she dared to dream beyond her limitations? As the pastor continued to pray, Sarah felt a flicker of courage ignite within her. Perhaps her journey was only beginning. The voice that had whispered before now urged her forward. What if the key to unlocking those divine secrets lay not just in belief, but in the brave act of sharing her story, her truth? Could this very moment lead her family into an entirely new chapter of redemption? As the congregation began to chant prayers of victory, Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come next. "Prepare for what comes next," came that powerful whisper again, for there is much more to share. Could she truly be ready to embrace this new adventure that awaited? As the congregation's voices soared, Sarah's heart beat in sync with the rhythm of faith surrounding her. There was an infectious energy in the air, a palpable sensation that danced on her skin and filled the room with divine expectancy. She could feel the weight of her doubts beginning to lift, sliding off her shoulders like a heavy cloak shed in the warmth of the sun. "Let us witness the miraculous," the pastor called out, his voice resonating like a horn. "Let your faith rise as a beacon, illuminating the shadows that surround you." His words wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, igniting the flame within her spirit. Sarah found herself lost in a vision, a glimpse of her family bathed in light, laughter echoing through their home, love binding them together like an unbreakable thread. For the first time, she truly considered that the barriers she perceived were not as solid as they seemed. With that newfound clarity, she began to understand the power of intention. It was like a key sliding into a long-forgotten lock. What if her family's healing depended on the courage she had to share her own truth? What if she could be the catalyst for change, not just for herself, but for all those around her? In that moment of clarity, Sarah dared to lift her voice. "Lord, I lift my family to you. May our burdens be lightened and our hearts unchained." The congregation echoed her sentiments, amplifying the shout into a chorus of faith. Each voice was a thread woven together, forming a tapestry of hope that reverberated through the church walls. As they prayed, her thoughts turned toward her childhood memories of laughter intertwined with moments suffocated by fear. The ego, she realized, was an unwanted guest lurking beneath the surface, telling her she wasn't enough. Couldn't tea possibly make a difference? But here, surrounded by love, she could feel the ego's grip begin to falter. "Believe, Sarah." Thomas's voice edged into her thoughts, steady and unwavering. "This is your moment of liberation." A surge of courage welled within her, causing her pulse to quicken. Surrendering to the divine flow, she closed her eyes and envisioned the barriers within her heart crumbling, dissolving like clouds parting to reveal a brilliant sky. With each passing moment, she felt lighter, freer. The pastor continued, "Now, I invite you to speak your truth. Join with those around you. Declare the intentions of your heart and watch the heavens respond." Sarah knelt, joined by others filled with expectation. Voices rose, each intention becoming a vibrant note in the symphony of their collective faith. She inhaled deeply and then bowed her head low, whispering her truth, a truth she had kept buried for far too long. "I am ready, God. I am ready to let go of my ego. I step into my purpose. I trust in your plan." The air shimmered with possibility. Sarah felt an overwhelming peace wash over her, infusing every inch of her body. It was not merely a release of burdens, but a divine infusion, filling the cracks in her spirit with light. Suddenly, someone cried out, "The chains are breaking." Gasps filled the room. Eyes opened widely, tears streamed down cheeks, and hope soared like an eagle into the bright sky above. The church transformed into a sanctuary of visible change, a place where lives were being redefined in the very moment. Yes, she rose to her feet. A sense of readiness swelled within her. Could she carry this light beyond the walls of the church? Was there more for her to uncover? The pastor's voice softened. "You are now marked for greatness. Go forth and embrace the divine secrets that await." Sarah's heart thudded in her chest. Her spirit yearned to uncover the next layer of God's mystery. Just then, a thought fluttered in her mind, gently guiding her spirit. There was something deeper, yet something waiting to be born within her. What if, beyond the freedom she sought, the true power lay in the stories yet to be told? With a deep breath, she prepared herself to step into that divine adventure, and the question lingered tantalizingly in the air: where would this newfound journey lead? As the congregation slowly began to settle, the air still crackled with electric anticipation. Sarah felt the warmth of the divine embrace saturating her spirit. Her heart raced with excitement, pulsating alongside the rhythm of hope that continued to resonate within the walls of the church. "Look around you," a soft voice whispered through her mind, echoing gently but assertively. "Each face reflects a piece of your journey. You're not alone." It was a realization that sent ripples of joy through her soul. She glanced around, catching the eyes of fellow worshippers, each one a lighthouse illuminating the way toward greater purpose. With each passing heartbeat, Sarah felt compelled to act. As she scanned the room, she spotted a young woman with tear-stained cheeks, kneeling alone in a corner. The sight tugged at her heart. She felt an unyielding urge to connect, to reach out and share the light she had just embraced. What if my story can inspire someone else? She pondered, her courage blossoming like a flower in spring. Without thinking twice, Sarah made her way through the bustling crowd, her feet propelled by faith. As she reached the woman, she knelt beside her, offering a comforting presence. "Hey, I'm Sarah," she said softly. "I know what it feels like to be in the shadows. Can I pray with you?" The woman looked up, surprise etched across her face. "I just don't know if I can overcome this pain," she replied, her voice quivering. Sarah felt her heart swell. The vulnerability shared in that moment birthed a bridge, a sacred exchange. None of us are alone in our struggles. Together, let us bring our burdens to the Lord, Sarah replied with a warmth that wrapped around them both. With hands clasped tightly, they bowed their heads in prayer, inviting God into their space. As words flowed between them, Sarah felt her own walls begin to crumble. She spoke candidly about her past, the fears that once whispered lies, and the battles fought with ego. "I have felt lost too," she whispered, her voice trembling yet strong. "But I found that vulnerability leads to freedom." Unexpectedly, she looked up and noticed others gathered around, drawn in by the spirit of connection, the tangible sense of love. Together, they began to form a circle, collective hearts igniting in the light of compassion. How amazing, Sarah thought, that simply sharing my truth can spark hope and healing. She smiled, realizing that the stories shared among them could weave an intricate fabric of encouragement and support. As the prayer concluded, an unfamiliar joy swept through the group. Laughter erupted, pulsing waves of liberation danced in the air, washing over hearts that had long felt heavy. It was as if chains were being not only broken, but transformed into a mighty hymn celebrating resilience. The pastor, now catching sight of the gathering, strode over with a knowing smile. That's it. Keep shining your light. Each act of faith, no matter how small, ignites something incredible. His enthusiasm reverberated in Sarah's heart, and she felt a deeper sense of purpose blooming within in that moment. The door to divine secrets swung wide open. She realized God had already begun to write her story in the hearts of others, and she was merely here to help guide them along the journey. As the atmosphere thickened with blessing, she wondered what stories were waiting to be told. Would she be bold enough to embrace her role and share not just her light, but that of others too? With a smile on her lips and fire in her spirit, Sarah turned her gaze upward, embracing the divine unknown. There, at the precipice of her journey, she took a step forward, knowing that adventures awaited her. And as she walked further into the promise of tomorrow, a single question danced at the forefront of her mind: what greater revelations would emerge from this tapestry of shared lives? As the vibrant laughter faded, a peaceful hush enveloped the circle. Sarah felt the presence of God solidly beside her, an anchor in the storm. All around her, hearts were beating in unison. A sacred rhythm of healing began to pulse through the air. It was in that moment of stillness that she noticed a boy, hardly more than 7, weaving through the crowd with wide, curious eyes. His gaze met hers, and she could see something profound: a thirst for understanding, a flame of faith waiting to be ignited. With an inexplicable urge, she beckoned him closer. "Would you like to join us, little one?" He nodded, a radiant smile breaking across his face, and rushed to her side. Sarah gently placed her hand on his shoulder. In that simple act, warmth flowed between them, mirroring the bond of family that transcended age. "What's your name?" she asked. "Eli," he whispered, his voice small yet filled with unyielding energy. "I heard you praying, and it made me happy. Can I pray too?" Her heart swelled with joy at his pure expectation. "Of course. Would you like to share something you're thankful for?" Eli thought for a moment, his little brow furrowing adorably. "I'm thankful for the sun. It makes flowers grow." With that, Sarah felt freshly invigorated. What a beautiful thing to be thankful for. Let us celebrate that together. As they began to pray, the circle around them expanded, individuals from different backgrounds stepping forward. Each voice became a note, harmonizing uniquely, yet together creating a melody of gratitude that soared high. They thanked God for the little things: the sun, the laughter, the healing, the unity. Something shifted in the atmosphere. A sense of togetherness became tangible. Fingers pointed skyward in praise, and as they prayed, a vibrant light began to flicker above them, reminiscent of golden rays breaking through clouds. It was as if heaven danced in delight at their openness. The pastor, now engrossed, joined the unfolding moment, his own heart lifted with wonder. "This is what it means to be the body of Christ," he exclaimed, his voice ringing out like a trumpet. "Every single one of you carries something special. Do not let fear silence your voice. Each prayer is a treasure." Eli beamed, and Sarah too felt the flame of hope ignite brighter in her chest. Suddenly, she had a revelation. What if they all shared their fears alongside their gratitude? What if we could turn our greatest struggles into strengths right here? She thought. "Let us share our worries too, friends," she encouraged. "What weighs on your heart?" A hush fell, but this time filled with potential. One by one, faces turned expressive as whispers of pain began to surface. There was a young man who felt lost in his career choices, a woman who lamented the distance growing in her relationships, and an elderly man who feared he had no time left to make things right. With every fear laid bare, Sarah could see the light inside them flicker and flare. Her heart raced with passion as she listened intently. noting how these struggles mirrored her own, each confession woven into a larger tapestry. If they could face these battles together, would a greater strength emerge? Together, we can transform these worries into powerful prayers, she exclaimed, her voice ringing strong. Let us empower each other. Who will join me in speaking life and hope over these burdens? Much like nothing before, the walls of skepticism crumbled. Each person nodded, embracing the idea with open hearts. The atmosphere became charged, spirits soared, and once hushed voices now lifted in declaration against fear. As their prayers wrapped around the congregation like an embrace, Sarah felt herself transported beyond the physical into a divine heartbeat. This was unity, this was sacred. They were not just in church, they were in God's hands. And in that glorious moment, Sarah found herself questioning again how many souls had yet to join this awakening of faith. What transformations awaited them all? With her spirit ignited, hope surged within her. She could feel a divine wind urging her forward. Would they uncover hidden treasures in their stories yet to be shared? The door to revelation was wide open, and the adventure had only just begun. What awaited in the next step of their journey? As the last echo of their prayers faded into the sacred space, Sarah noticed a deep silence settling in. Yet, it was not an empty silence. Rather, it was thick with potential. It was as if the air was charged with divine energy, awaiting the next movement of faith. Eli, still by her side, looked up with eyes sparkling like those of an eager teacher. "Can we do more?" he asked, bouncing slightly on his toes. The innocence in his voice was overwhelming, and Sarah felt a wave of inspiration crash over her. "Yes, we can always do more," she replied eagerly. "We can ask God for strength and clarity to help others. Would you like to lead us in a prayer for those who couldn't join us today?" Eli's eyes widened in surprise, as if the weight of the invitation had just landed on his small shoulders. "Me? Okay." With a wide grin, he clasped his hands together, his tiny fingers trembling with excitement. Taking a deep breath, Eli closed his eyes, a seriousness settling across his youthful features. "Dear God," he began, his voice steady, "please help those people who are sad or lonely. Help them find someone to talk to and listen to them." Each word poured out with the purity of his heart, and Sarah could feel warmth spread among the gathering. Around them, heads nodded in agreement, hearts opened in affirmation. The pastor watched with a gentle smile, clearly moved by the boy's authenticity. "Amen," he said, his voice filled with tenderness. But rather than a simple end to the prayer, Sarah sensed the beginning of something deeper. An urge tugged within her, compelling her to speak from the core of her being. "We should also ask for God to show us our own fears," she added boldly. "Not for blame, but to understand how they can be transformed into strength." The crowd stirred, that familiar mix of hesitance and curiosity. Sarah took a step forward. What if we confronted our fears, and instead of allowing them to control us, we let them guide us toward victory? The faces around her transformed as realization flickered in their eyes. It was as if they began to see their fears not as chains, but as keys. Eli grinned up at her, while timid hands slowly began to rise. One by one, people joined in. A woman spoke of her anxiety about reaching out a friend she had grown distant from, while a young man wondered how he might find direction in uncertain times. Each admission was a colorful thread that began to weave through the gathered souls, creating a rich tapestry of shared experience. "Let us embrace them," Sarah encouraged. "Let us lift each other up, and with each prayer, we will turn each fear into faith, each worry into witness." And suddenly, as they prayed, their individual fears transformed into collective strength. Voices grew bolder, prayers began to spark fervor, and the divine light above them intensified, glowing brighter with each declaration of hope. Above them, the air shimmered with a sacred presence, a promise nestled within every heart. Tears of joy began to flow, not from sorrow, but from the beauty of connection. Sarah could feel her heart pounding with newfound purpose. There was something undeniably powerful in this moment, as if the heavens were affirming their willingness to grow and change. Just then, a voice broke through the ambience, trembling slightly. "I want to share something too," an elderly woman began, hesitating yet determined. "I've held on to regret for years, not knowing how to move forward." The crowd fell silent, spellbound by her courage. "But," she continued, "I want to turn that regret into a story of grace. I want to share my journey." Sarah's spirit soared. Their journey had just multiplied, with souls ready to unlock the stories buried deep within them. She felt the divine stirring anew as Eli squeezed her hand. Sarah realized the journey was more than just personal growth. It was an awakening of community, a movement toward a shared future filled with faith. What awaited them as they embraced these aches and tales together? Would hidden treasures finally come alight? As hope hung in the air, one thought lingered. What divine surprises did God have in store for them all? With the woman's heartfelt words lingering in the air, a hush fell over the gathering. Faces were illuminated by the soft glow of flickering candles, each flicker reflecting the innermost thoughts and emotions of those present. Sarah gazed around, her heart swelling with anticipation. In that moment, each soul felt called to delve deeper into vulnerability and revelation. "Can we witness this transformation together?" she posed, her voice a soft yet resonant whisper. "Let us become conduits of grace, sharing our burdens without fear, lifting each other toward healing." Eli nudged closer to Sarah, his little frame radiating a brave fervor like a candleless light. "I want to share too," he exclaimed, his voice rising in enthusiasm. Sarah smiled down at him, ready to embrace whatever he wanted to reveal. "Sometimes I get scared when I think about visiting my grandma alone," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his tone. "I don't want her to be sad, but I'm afraid she might be different." His innocent fear resonated, a gentle reminder that even the smallest among us carry poignant worries. The group saw the sincerity in his eyes. An older man, seated at the back, spoke up gently. "Eli, your bravery inspires us all. With every visit, you bring God's love. Remember, love is the strongest force." The words ignited hope. One person after another began to share, weaving a tapestry of humanity before God's gaze. As sorrow spilled into confessions, congregants became each other's sanctuary. The elderly woman who first spoke raised her hands, inviting them to join her in a prayer. "Let us ask for strength to release our burdens and receive forgiveness," she encouraged, her voice firm with faith. "Let us be reborn through His grace, making room for joy and hope to bloom." As they joined hands, a wave of energy surged, wrapping around them like warm sunlight after a harsh winter. The group began to chant softly, their collective prayers intertwining in harmonies of healing and redemption. Eli squeezed Sarah's hand tighter. In that moment, fear melted away into unshakable trust. His innocent mantra became mingled with the rest, echoing through the sacred space. "We can do this together. We can be brave together." Sarah looked around, catching glimpses of hands raised in surrender as the crowd gasped with the realization of shared burdens. She noticed the pastor nodding his head, eyes closed in deep understanding. The candlelight began to flicker wildly, as if responding to their heightened energy. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst forth from the center of their gathering, enveloping them in a divine embrace. It was a soft glow, yet powerful, illuminating secrets hidden in the shadows of their souls. "It's as if heaven is drawing near," someone exclaimed, the atmosphere thickening with expectancy. What wonders does this moment hold? As the light pulsed gently, laughter and tears intermingled, drawing them deeper into connection and revelation. Sarah felt compelled to speak again. "Let us trust that God is turning our shared fears into testimony. Together we can ignite a light that shines beyond this moment." She led them in a heartfelt prayer of thanksgiving and anticipation, urging everyone to express their gratitude for both their fears and their forgiveness. igniting flames of hope within each heart. God has more for us than we can ever imagine, she said with a fervent smile. But even as she spoke, a divine mystery loomed over them, a sense of greater things awaiting revelation. As the session closed, the group lingered, hearts ablaze with curious energy. What were they meant to do next? What messages awaited them in their shared journeys? Eli turned to Sarah, eyes wide. What is coming next? Sarah met his gaze, feeling the soft pull of the Spirit. I believe we're about to uncover answers to questions we didn't even know we had, and as the anticipation thickened, they all stood ready, waiting for the divine spark that would guide their next steps. The air buzzed with sacred energy that Sunday morning in Thornfield. In the heart of St. Jude's Church, Sarah stood surrounded by familiar faces transformed by prayer. They had gathered, aching for connection and healing, and now the atmosphere shimmered with palpable faith. As the last echoes of their heartfelt confessions lingered, Sarah understood they were on the cusp of something monumental. Let us prepare our hearts to receive what comes next. The pastor encouraged, his voice steady yet uplifting. His declaration felt like a gentle call to take the next step together. As the congregation responded to his encouragement with murmurs of agreement, Sarah found herself reflecting on everything that had led them to this moment. The miracle of Thomas's healing had ignited hope and rid deeper fears. She looked at Eli, whose innocence and bravery shone brightly in that space, reminding her that faith often flourishes in the simplest acts of love. We've transformed our worries into woven strength, Sarah declared, stepping forward. Her voice, though soft, delivered a strength that echoed off the high walls. But let us take it a step further. What if by sharing our stories, we create not just change within ourselves, but a ripple of divine healing through our community? What do you mean? A voice called out from the crowd. It belonged to a woman whose eyes had glistened with tears throughout their prayers. We've been working to release our burdens. Imagine if we documented this journey. Each testimony becomes a thread in a grand tapestry, a light for those feeling lost in their shadows, Sarah replied fervently. Eli's eyes brightened. Can we write a book like the Bible? Can we make it a story about everything God did? His voice carried a childlike exuberance that tugged at the corners of everyone's hearts. Yes, Sarah exclaimed, feeling a surge of joy. A collection of brave hearts telling of the struggles and victories that brought us here. It can inspire many more who sit in darkness. This moment, our testimonies can shift mountains. Excited whispers filled the room as hope brewed anew. It sounds beautiful, the elderly woman interjected, easing closer. To share our stories is to honor each other's journey. It embraces the essence of community tied not just by struggles, but by healing. With renewed determination, the pastor stood once more, raising both hands in blessing. Let us take this leap together. May each voice, each story unite us deeper, for God's plan is woven through our shared experiences. Who is willing to commit? One by one, hands shot up in spirited excitement, rising above the uncertainty. The energy in the room ignited, bursting forth like flames of a campfire spreading warmth through the chill of night. Sarah watched in awe as they began to form small circles, clusters of hearts ready to share their truths. Laughter and earnest whispers filled the church, each group setting to work on cultivating their narratives, how their fears turned into faith, how darkness once loomed but light pierced through. Remember how that old woman said intention was key? Sarah reminded her group lovingly as they gathered, ready to listen to each other. In sharing, we act as conduits for His grace. They sat, hearts laid bare, listening as deeply as they had prayed. One shared the weight of guilt for late reconciliation. Another shared the fear of health that kept him from being present, while a third spoke about feeling unseen in her community. Yet, as voices resonated, they all wound together, revealing the beauty of vulnerability, binding their hearts closely as family. The room thrummed with energy, hearts knitting into a sanctuary of belonging. Tears spilled freely, but they were tears of relief, of joy, of triumph, as each testimony took flight. Spilling our stories is healing undeniable, Sarah observed, glancing joyfully at Eli, who was animatedly sketching their shared insights. Let us chronicle it. Let us gather each voice, each experience, and invite others to witness transformation. Distant from doubt, Sarah felt her spirit soaring, welcoming the divine unknown. Each moment of surrender began to feel less like a struggle of release and more like a beckoning of freedom. It took shape, a luminous vision of all they were about to manifest. As they neared the finish of their meeting, a ringing bell suddenly echoed, signaling the worship service about to commence. Let us carry this energy around us as we praise. The pastor encouraged, allow our stories and joy to spill into worship. With renewed vigor, they stepped into praise. Voices rose high above unison, a chorus to honor their journey, their healing, and God's goodness intertwined. The atmosphere was electric, reverberating with divine anticipation, a promise held tight. In faith, they could unveil secret revelations, each echoing like an excited whisper. Sarah stood boldly in that moment, her heart fueled with gratitude. She could have never imagined surrendering her ego would lead them to this. With each note and fervent prayer, they recognized the power ignited in sharing stories of faith. They understood their journey had merely begun. As a united front, they were stronger, braver, ready to face whatever God had in store for the path ahead. As the final notes faded into silence, Sarah felt enveloped in sweet peace, knowing they would step forward as not just bearers of transformation, but as witnesses to a story unfolding that would extend beyond Thornfield, lighting paths for hearts waiting to be found. And now, dear brothers and sisters, if you felt moved by this incredible journey of faith, this is the moment to act. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help even more souls discover these precious testimonies. Comment below with your reactions and your own stories. Let us uplift each other. And lastly, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this holy manifestation. Only true servants of God understand the importance of nurturing our shared faith through these actions.